What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I'm finally able to bring you an update for White Forest Azaminas. Now this is the lore style deck that involves the White Forest cards and the Azaminas. It does not involve any FIENDSMITH at all. I specifically went out of my way to make sure that that didn't happen. And what I really like about the deck is it's kind of moved away from the original build that I had involving the toy box being hugely synchro orientated. It now has a very nice balance with some of the new fusions, and it does kind of open up the door for some very awesome, powerful plays, including a Guardian Chimera for during your opponent's turn as well. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. With all of that out of the way, I'm going to dive headfirst into the profile, show you what we've got, and explain why we've got it. So for the White Forest monsters, you're going to be starting off with 3 LZ. This is your ideal White Forest monster, which is why you max out on it alongside the Sylvie, which I'll talk about in a second. But the idea behind this one is you get to send any spell or trap from your hand or field to the graveyard to special summon it from the hand, and then you get to add a White Forest monster from the deck to the hand. So this is your free, well, technical free extender that then allows you to search out your starter of the deck, which will end up being your Sylvie. So the Sylvie is, if it's normal or special, you add a White Forest spell or trap from the deck to the hand, and if this card is in the graveyard, you get a quick event to target a White Forest synchro monster you control, return it to the extra deck, and if you do, special summon this card. So it gives you the recyclability you need as well. Then of course we've got one of the brand new LZ Azamina of the White Forest. Now I bounced around between playing 2 and 1 of this card. One kind of fit with what I wanted to achieve with this particular type of deck, which meant keeping access to more spells and traps that can be sent and reset, and of course cards in the form of the toy box engine, as I still quite like that. I feel that's the one engine you get the most advantage from when you're sending those spells / traps. So this brand new one, you get to reveal it from the hand to special summon a White Forest or Azamina monster from the hand. And then during your main phase, you can fusion summon an Azamina fusion monster from your extra deck using monster from your hand or field. If this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you get to add a Sinful Spoils card from the deck to the hand. So straight away you get to search out Wanted, which is absolutely mental. Then got the one Estella. Now you don't rely on this as heavily now, you still rely on Sylvie a lot more, thanks to the fact that this is probably a better normal summon now to get you access to stuff like your Azamina, because obviously this is an LZ of, it's an Azamina or a White Forest as well, which is really helpful, which is why you don't need to rely on Estella as much. The final one is the Russia. Now, I believe the Russia is the one that got the foil upgrade in OTS 27, I think we're on, but the Sylvie still kind of escaped that. Big sad. So this one is if you control a White Forest monster, you get to special on this card from the hand, and you get to send a spell or trap from your hand or field to the graveyard to draw 1 card. Now, the one good thing about all of the actual White Forest monsters, not the Azamina White Forest, is they're all level 4 or lower spellcasters. So this is where you could bridge the deck into a Blue Eyes variant, because obviously you can start with these and then work your way into the others. For the other White Forest cards, we've got the One Tails. So if you control an illusion or a spellcaster, a lot easier to do now because you've got LZ Azamina. You get to add a White Forest monster from the deck to the hand, so again gives you the free extender. And this is one of the spells, if it is sent to activate a monster effect, you get to reset it. Then the brand new card, Sinful Spoils of the White Forest. Love the artworks on all of these that are like puppet shows that not predict, but kind of like dictate a story, which I think is really awesome. So this one is if you control a Fiend, Illusion, or Spellcaster monster, activate one of these effects. Special summon a Fiend, Illusion, or Spellcaster from the hand. Fusion summon a Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. And if this card is sent to the graveyard to activate a monster effect, you get to reset it. So what's really kind of cool about that is, again, it's free spell or trap fodder you get to send to activate your White Forest effects and then reset it. And then during your opponent's turn, it will start unlocking the abilities to get into your Saint Azamina or, of course, Guardian Chimera to be a bit more aggressive. Then we've got one Woes. This basically allows you to special summon a White Forest monster from the hand or deck, and then immediately after effect resolve, synchro summon a White Forest synchro monster. So that's going to give you access to your Sylvia, which is basically your Book of Moon. And then the other brand new one that we play is the Azamina Afis. So this is always treated as a White Forest card. It has the same effect that if it is sent to the graveyard to activate a monster effect, you get to reset it. And then target cards on the field up to the number of fusion and synchro monsters in the field and the graveyard that are Fiend, Illusion, or Spellcasters. So you get to bounce technically 3 cards, which is really kind of cool. And that's kind of what you're going to be aiming to do. Then for the Azamina kind of style, we are going with triple Diabell stars. So the idea is that your Diabell works off the back of your Wanted and works it into Deception, which you can now very easily just play one of it because it gets really easy access and you're going to have ways to recycle it. And you're not heavily relying on your Azaminas themselves. You've got that balance of Azaminas and, of course, White Forests. There are ways you can change the ratios. I have seen builds that play 3 wanted and 1 witch, or 3 witch and 1 wanted. Obviously, I personally feel that you can max out on them. That's going to give you your max consistency. But if you're like, I want a bit more hand trap, what would I cut first? Well, this is the engine that you would cut first, but personally, I just really, really like it, which is why I keep it. And that's the toybox engine. So I'm playing this at the most minimum, which is 1 soldier, 1 tank, and then 3 of the toy box itself. Like, this engine is just so good. It just gives you so much more advantage. It does start opening up the door for easier access to your rank 4s. It opens up the door to easier access to some of your synchro level 10s as well. And it just works out nicely. Then moving into like the spells and traps I wanted to play more spells and traps for the deck that get me advantage when they're sent or help me break boards. So I went with triple black goat that laughs. Now, honestly, this card has rocketed up in price. I feel that I might switch it up. So at the moment, I'm playing 3 goat and 2 Book of Eclipse, but I might want to do it the other way around. Now, the reason I've got Book of Eclipse in here is I just felt that it's such an incredibly good card to deal with a detonator board. Because, like, if you're playing stuff that deals with 1 XYZ on the board, like an Ultimate Slayer, which in turn can lead you to dealing with a second one. But the idea behind that was Book of Eclipse gives me that ability that if I go first, it's free send fodder. Also, you can consider something like evenly matched, but I feel again in the Ryziel matchup, you activate Book of Eclipse, they still keep the detonator. Whereas I like the ability of activating Book of Eclipse during the draw phase. That will then deal with the triple high D Wave King Caesar and the detonator, and then you pick them off bit by bit so that they don't float back with the Eclipse twins, and that's when you're going to get the most advantage from it. The Black Goat that lasts, what makes this one so good is, as a normal trap card, you get to declare 1 monster card. This turn, neither player can special summon monsters with that original name, except from the graveyard. But then it has a graveyard banish effect that you get to banish it from the graveyard to declare a monster card name. This turn, neither player can activate the effects of monsters on the field with that original name. You can only use 1 Black Goat effect last per turn. So the best thing about that is this will then give you the ability, so you send this off of one of your white forests. When this is in the graveyard, you can then banish it to then try and negate a detonator, so it's another way to out that card. It can also be quite helpful against other matchups as well, because you're calling a specifically core card of their plays, and that's where you can get the most advantage from it. And then for the standard hand trap, so triple Ash Blossom, double Veiler, like you can adapt these to your environment. Like you're either going to play something like Ghost Ogre, but the fact that it's a spell card so that it can be searched, you're probably better off doing it. Triple Imperm, so send and reset sometimes as well. And then of course the 1 Call by the Grave. So I was kind of caught between, do I want to play a board breaker engine that I just basically use as spells and traps, so play like evenly matches, you can play 3 Book of Eclipses, you can consider stuff like Ultimate Slayer that some people put in the extra deck as well, or in the side deck for the extra deck. And there is 3 flex spots in the extra deck that I'll show you when I get to them, of that I'm not 100% set on which route I want to go to, but I'll show you each of the different packages and then kind of what you would then dictate depending on how you want to play it. So for the White Forest Synchros, pretty standard on this one. We've got the 1 Diabelle, the 1 Sylvia, and the 1 Rusilia. Nothing more needs to be said about those. 1 Chaos Angel, again, pretty standard on the extra deck lineup. For the links, 1 Cross Sheep and 1 SP. Cross Sheep is actually really, really kind of cool in this deck because you can trigger it with fusions and synchros. More so, you're going to want to trigger it with the fusions, but if it is pointing to a synchro at the same time as well, you'll get an additional benefit. The idea is it just lets you revive some of your materials back from the grave and then you get to use them again. For the fusion monsters, so we'll start off with the 1 Chorozo. So this is obviously like a really kind of cool card that you can fusion during your turn or your opponent's. It requires a fusion, synchro, XYZ, or link, and then a spellcaster. Really easy to be made. And then must be first either fusion summoned or specialed from the extra deck by sending the correct fusion material monster card you control to the graveyard. Once per turn, when a monster declares an attack, you get to target it, negate the attack, and if you do, this card gains attack equal to that monster's attack until the end of the turn, and then you get to return that monster to the hand. And then, of course, for the Azamina cards, we've got the 1 Sylvia, which is obviously your Omni-Negate, your 1 Rusiliago, which allows you to pretty much get the draw off of Wanted if you don't see it. So this one, you search out the Wanted, and this is the combo where you go activate Hallowed Azamina, chain Wanted, and then you send in the Wanted off of the Hallowed Azamina. Now, because I wanted to kind of maintain the Azamina-esque feel to the deck, I am playing the 1 Saint Azamina and the 1 Azamina Mo Regina. The idea is that you get to summon this one, which requires 2 level 6 or higher monsters, 1 fusion and a synchro. And then your opponent cannot target cards on the field, in their field, graveyard or banishment, or cards on the field with card effects. Your opponent takes any battle damage you would have taken from attacks involving this fusion summon card. And then you get a quick effect, you get to special summon. If it was fusion summon, you get to quick effect, special summon a level 9 or lower Azamina monster from your deck or extra deck. You can only use the effect once per turn, so obviously the idea is you use this to get out your Regina. This one lets you target an illusion monster in your graveyard, accept itself, and special summon it. And then when an Azamina or Sinful Spoils card or effect is activated, except itself, you get a quick effect to target up to 2 cards on the field and destroy them. The last card we play is the Guardian Chimera, which is your overall fusion monster. Now, that's 12 monsters for the extra deck. The final 3 that I couldn't really decide on, which did get a little bit kind of, not confusion, but kind of torn between what I wanted to build, is you've got the most meta-relevant 3, which is obviously the Starslayer Typhon to deal with the Ryziel matchup, because you make this and then bounce back a Detonator. Abyss Dweller to deal with some of those rogue matchups, especially if you've got Mermail Atlanteans running around, because this could be very damaging for them. And then Bagooska if you could just get hand-trapped to death. So that's option number 1. Option number 2 is the route that I want to go down the most, and that's just because I really like the Abawa Q as a card. But to make the Abawa Q, you then need to play Nightmare Phoenix, which isn't a bad thing to add, and then that leaves you 1 extra space in the extra deck, so you get to play something like an IP Masquerena. The other options that you do have available to you are a Synchro engine, so that's when you're going to play like Gen X, the controller. You also get options to go down Muddy Mud Dragon into Dragoon, which is also really, really kind of cool and fun. And then the final option are 3 targets for Ultimate Slayer. So you'd be looking at your Adjugator as your XYZ target. You can put Elder Entity Ints as your fusion target. And then, of course, you can put in the Malong as your Synchro target. So that kind of dictates on what you're putting in the extra deck and what you're putting in the side deck. For the side deck, I'm not actually playing... I'm not going to be playing the Ultimate Slayer right now. I'm kind of more set on playing Book of Eclipse. So, like, I would max out the Book of Eclipse, put a 3rd one of that in. And then for the rest of the extra deck, it really comes down to what you have access to and what you want to play. So I would play more spells and traps than anything. So I'd be playing, like, Triple Tactic Talents, your Triple Tactics Thrusts, Lightning Storms, Evenly Matches, you name it. I think Drown Lockbird is going to be a massive card for this format, especially with the Ascended 7 coming out, because Ryziel are now going to want to search as much as they possibly can, and you want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And then a card that I really do like this format is Solemn Strike. And the best thing in a White Forest build is because it acts, or it is a spell/trap, or a trap that you can send. It gives you that little bit more synergy that if it does become a dead card, you can get rid of it, and then it just becomes a combo piece, or a piece to help you play and extend. And that kind of gives you a couple of different options. So obviously this isn't a full extra deck, but the idea is that these are the type of cards that I'd be looking at. So this is only 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So then you'd be looking at 2 Triple Tactic Talents and 2 Evenly Matches. You've got D-Barriers, you've got the Mischief of the Gnomes. It really depends on what you're going to be facing, what you're going to be coming up against, as to what you would want to put into the deck that's going to be the most effective for you. Like I said, the ratio of this deck can be adapted. Like, I feel the White Forest lineup is pretty staple. The only difference would be whether you play 2 of the Azamina White Forest or not. And then it's whether you play the toy box. The toy box will basically become your Fiendsmith engine if you have it and you want to go that level. I feel the Fiendsmith engine is definitely the strongest route of the deck, just because it is very, like, the engine itself plays itself. It's very meta-reliant. It literally just goes, cool. I've got 2 monsters on the board. I'm going to make my Moon. I'm going to make Requiem. I'm going to make into a Fiendsmith and then go from there. So it does kind of open up those options for you. It really depends if you want to be playing it or not. I still love the artwork of this card as well. Like, I love the lore as well. That is kind of like these White Forest creatures. Reminds me of like Hansel and Gretel, and then it moves into the darkness of the Deer Bell. And these cards get more support in the next set as well. Like, we get an upgrade to Saint Azamina, and they're definitely ones that I would have said to pick up earlier. But now the hype around this deck has started to creep up a little bit more. The deck is competing. It is having success at the higher levels. So it's definitely a deck you want to be aware of, because either you're going to be facing it, or it's a deck you're like, I don't want to play Ryziel, I don't want to play Manish, I would rather play a deck like White Forest. And the best thing about that is, quite unlike Malice and Ryziel, they're very linear. Like, Ryziel can play additional engines, but they basically just go Mitsurugis or Fiendsmiths, whereas with the White Forest, you can either play a pure Synchro build, which I think is really kind of cool. You play it with the Azaminas, which gives you that balance of fusion and Synchro. You can play it as a toy box engine, you can play it as a Fiendsmith engine, a wanted engine. You've just got so many different options you can mix around with it, is what I think makes this deck really, really kind of cool and really fun. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, please put it in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. But for now, as absolutely always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.